As with a lot of my videos, I will have a tendency to leave things out and I'll have to put them in the second video. One of the things I left out here is once you have your item on the screen and you've assigned your power and speed to it, you simply click download, and at that point it will tell you that it downloaded. It will download under whatever name you saved. So if I save this under a name, it'll download it as that name. You can't use more than 7 digits, and you can't use any symbols. It has to be a simple name for that. That way we can load more things into the firmware. Now, the other thing that's important is that once we do that, we can click here and select it only, and it'll only download the selection. Also, I want you to notice that when I deselect, you can see that the box is red. Also, this green corner, that coordinates to where your origin point has to be set. If your origin point is set over here, it's going to move the opposite direction. So you have to make sure of that case. Now, so let's go back over to here, and let's go to the next one, which is your Ethernet connection. Like I say, all you do with the Ethernet connection is you're simply going to click here, and if you have an Ethernet hooked up, then you'll see Ethernet connection there, and you'll click on port settings, and you'll put in the same IP address as on your laser, and you're running via Ethernet. Now, I prefer USB because it's just a lot easier to hook up, but a lot of larger companies like Ethernet, that's why we have it there. Again, you're testing for your autofocus. Again, get used to that. Remember, you don't have to always autofocus. You can manual focus. In the case of people who cut metal, they have to manual focus. Autofocus doesn't work, or it should not be used with cutting metals, else you're on an SS. If you're on an SS, then it autofocuses. You also want to customize your workspace in CorelDraw. Now, one of the things in Corel that I do is I'm using CorelDraw 7 here. What I suggest is that you use other things. Now, for example, notice that when I downloaded it, it had it convert to curves. If I go Control-Shift-R on my keyboard, or I go revert, it will revert back to whatever I saved. The revert is grayed out now. I did that on purpose to show you always save the job before you send it to the engraver. So if I have this job saved, what happens is I can go here, load this job, and then if I download, for example, I hit my tool, it goes over, I tell it file a new, and it drops a new one on the screen. Right? Now when I go over here, I can click on it, and it will tell me that I can revert back. Very important when you're doing that for text. So I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to actually exit that one, and I'm going to go into Corel X3. Now I want you to notice when I go into Corel X3 is that I have 3 icons here that I put on, and I put on this one. You also have, you'll see these icons here. These are for when I do variable text. This is called Laser Jumpstart. This is something you can buy from me if you do a lot of variable text. But what I did was I went into Tools, and I went to Customization, and I clicked on Text, and I changed myself to inches. Very important. The other thing I did was I made my size of my base plate, the size of the table I'm using, in this case is 16 by 30, and I drug out my 0 point to the top right corner because that's what I use. Then I double click on it, and I zero it up. I always put myself on 10 checks because engravers think in tenths of an inch, and I always increase my nudges to 25 and put my nudge amount on 0.1. I'll go to page, and I'll tell it to show me the bleed. That way it's easier to see, because I'm going to turn the grid on and tell it to go 1 by 1 grid, because that way I have a grid square every inch. It's easier to line up stuff. Then I'll go to customization, click on commands, and I'll find revert, and I'll add my new shortcut key, which is Control-Alt-R. I'll assign it, and then I'll go on to arrange. And what I do with arrange is I'll pull this out, and then I'll pull out the 2 verticals, and basically do the same thing for the macros. And if you notice, there's my macros for LaserWorks. I'll pull those out. And what they'll do is they'll activate, and then I'll drop them here on the bar. When I click OK, then I can move them around. In this case, I'm going to delete them because they're already there. And then what I can do, especially on advanced ones, is I can take and lock the bar afterwards. On X3, you can't. But those are the things. You can even see a little icon here where I can take what's in CorelDraw and drop it into my EngraveLab. EngraveLab and CorelDraw work very, very well together. Like I say, if you're